When you're asked about somebody saying a bad thing, whether you're right or you're left, of course you ought to condemn the bad thing that is being said. I don't even understand the logic of not doing that. You only get out of jail free if you ask to do so. You don't get it just because, like, preemptively. So you say something terrible or you do something terrible and people just preemptively forgive you. All that is an incentivization to do more of that thing. And I will say, finally, it actually is not sufficient to publicly proclaim you're not going to condemn these people while you don't say anything about their comments and instead just project to the other side.
So I don't know if it was intentional or if it just happened to happen, but Ben Shapiro there, he's referencing Politico's report about the Young Republicans racist group chat, and obviously since then there's been some criticism of it and consequences, which we'll get to, and then there's plenty of people who don't want to say anything about it or just say boys will be boys or just apologize for some of the most racist and anti-Semitic and violent comments that you can imagine seeing. And in doing that, he seemed to be taking very much the opposite side of one of his fellow Daily Wire hosts, that being Matt Walsh. So we'll get into some of the specifics, including the response there, but what do you make of this disagreement?
It's really interesting. So I don't want to say I side with Ben Shapiro. I don't want to say I side with either side for these two particular guys. But let's talk it out, because as you're gonna see here, it's a bit of a roller coaster ride. I think it's a roller coaster ride. I think the comments are terrible, but there's different reasons why Ben Shapiro thinks they're terrible and Matt Walsh doesn't think they're so terrible.
Wait, are you implying that Ben Shapiro is not being as principled as he is implied that he is?
Yes, I am. In fact, I'm not implying that, I'm just saying
it's incendiary what you're doing, and I condemn you. And just in case, I also condemn Hassan Piker, just in case I run for mayor.
Right.
I want to get out there that I condemn it. This ridiculous debate there in New York. But anyway, okay, so let's talk about what actually happened. So this report comes out. You have this group of a number of young GOP leaders, not kids. Let's be clear about that, who had had this shared group chat over the course of 7 months. Now, the Young Republican National Federation has young Republicans, including some who are underage, a lot of them, 15,000 members. But this Telegram group chat was not rando kids like swearing while playing Roblox or whatever. These are the leaders. This is about a dozen people who are the leaders of this organization. And epithets like the F word, the R word, and the N word appear more than 251 times combined, which is a lot. There were references to gas chambers and the showers. There were references to watermelon people and monkey play basketball and all sorts of the most insane, over the top, bigoted comments you can imagine. And these are not randos. This is the bench for the Republicans. This is their next generation of leaders. Enthusiasm, just delighting in the fact that this is a private message. I can finally say what I really believe, and they did many times. Now, as a result of that, some of the individuals in the group chat have apologized. One member lost their job, 2 stepped down from their positions. Another had a job offer revoked. And so how should other Republicans and people on that side of the aisle respond to this? Well, there you can see Ben Shapiro implying that when someone has said a terrible thing, you denounce it. Although maybe not for the reasons he implies. We'll get to that with Cenk. Matt Walsh, who also works at the same organization as Ben Shapiro, says that conservatives need to avoid punching right. And he said this: during the gender ideology fight, I made it clear that I would happily align with liberal feminists who hate my guts for the purpose of defeating transgenderism. They mostly declined that invitation and turned around and disavowed me instead, which I expected, but the invitation was sincere. I will work with anyone to defeat an evil. This has always been my stance. And this is like a bit of an aside, but just to be clear, transgenderism is not a thing. Transgender people are a thing, and their identity, the identity of a person or a group of people, no matter how uncomfortable they make you, no matter how weirdly, bizarrely obsessed you are with them, that doesn't make it an ideology. It's just an identity that you have a problem with, just to be clear about that. But he goes on to say, when it comes to fighting the left and defeating the people who want to kill me and my family and on my grave, I will unite with anyone on the right, even those I don't like. and who don't like me. If you think this is unprincipled or morally compromised, then you simply don't understand how to fight and actually win a battle. A fractured conservative movement will fail. Only a united front can succeed. If you reject this invitation just as the feminists did, that's fine, it's your right. It won't be the first time I've reached out my hand and gotten a hearty F you in response. It doesn't hurt my feelings, but it does hurt the cause, and that's what I care about. So just to be clear, he doesn't care about any of the things that they said, and I think he is being completely honest in that. I think he loves that stuff. I think that if you were able to see the contents of his private messages, you probably see some pretty wild stuff there too. And there's a lot of people on the so-called independent right that I'm sure are not only not wanting to condemn those people, but are probably rushing to their podcasts and their Rumble shows and all that to say how awesome it is. Because one of the major points, the populist side points of that movement, is to get people to feel comfortable doing exactly those sorts of things. Telling you, if you're prone to the same sort of bigotries that you saw in this young Republican group or whatever, that's actually not a bad thing. You shouldn't be condemned for that. You shouldn't seek to be better. And it's actually awesome. You should be unapologetic. And Matt Walsh has always, it's one form of his grift, the way that it takes is telling people that that's actually great. Now there's a strategic side to it too, and that's where the disagreement with Ben Shapiro really forms. But Cenk, what do you make about the actual disagreement and why you think they're taking the positions they are?
Yeah, so he's saying, look, we got to unite to win. And you've heard me sometimes say we got to unite with some folks, right? So where's the difference? Well, the difference is in the content, and that is everything. So he says, yeah, I want to be able to unite with these deeply hateful portion of the right-wing movement that refers to black people as N-word and talks about gas chambers and pro-Hitler and
the Jew.
And etc. Right? And of course, gay people are the F word, all that stuff. And he's like, yeah, I'm good with it, right? So whereas on the Democratic side, when they say unite, usually in the past, that was just a talking point, and it was to get you to bow your head to establishment Democrats. Remember, they would say, like if Bernie was winning, they're like, no, attack him, attack, attack, attack. Everybody unite to attack Bernie, right? The minute that Bernie's losing and Hillary's winning or Joe Biden's winning, unite, unite, everybody, unite under our brand of corporate douchebaggery, right? And what would we always say? I would say, no, I'm not gonna unite on a thing I don't agree with. And then I got into some issues with some folks, a tiny amount, I think, but we'll see about that were in the radical left, etc. But they wanted me to unite on things I don't agree with. So I don't want to unite around that. What I want to do is something crazy. Unite around ideas we do agree on. Crazy, okay? So, and I think a lot of people in this country agree on a lot of giant ideas, like we all hate corruption. We all hate the money in politics. We all hate how much they rip us off on drug prices, etc. Right? So, okay, when Matt Walsh says unite with these guys, what he's saying is, I don't mind their opinions. Like they think that stuff, I'm good with it. I don't mind uniting with that. Right?
And he also thinks they need those people to win.
Yeah, and so that's a whole different animal, right?
He clearly thinks it's not just a couple people. If you can't denounce them and still win, it's enough people, you'll lose elections if you turn them off.
That's a great point, John. So that's the second point here, which is, how many do you think there are? Oh, so you think there are millions and millions and millions of Republican voters who believe those crazy, awful things. That's pretty telling. I didn't say it, Matt Walsh said it, right? Okay, and now to Ben Shapiro. Why is Ben Shapiro in favor of canceling these guys? Now, I've seen him defend people saying awful things. Cancel culture, they're trying to take your rights away to call black people the N-word. How dare they, right? Oh, but there were comments about Jewish folks. All of a sudden, he's like, no, well, sometimes we gotta cancel people. I mean, come on, right? And he did, and if you watch this whole longer thing, he's like, I mean, there's some lines have to be drawn socially, and those people have to be excluded from the conversation. Wait, that's literally cancel culture, right? And brother, I don't disagree with you. That's why I said in the beginning, I'm a little uncomfortable. I halfway agree with Shapiro on this one, because those guys weren't saying, hey, Israel has too much control or the genocide. No, they were like, Jew this, Jew that, right? Yeah. And so, I don't want to unite with guys like that. And so Ben Shapiro is right on the content. Like these guys are way beyond the pale, and don't do that. And by the way, when you do, you kind of smear the rest of that coalition. saying, yeah, we're all good with insulting women, black people, gay people, Jewish people like that. So hey, that's I think that's a giant political mistake on top of a moral mistake, right? But we have to also point out Shapiro's hypocrisy, right? He was good with all of it for his entire career until you got to his group. I'll say the last quick fun story. A friend of mine is Indian. We grew up together. We grew up listening to Howard Stern. We used to drive together to school, and he loved Howard Stern. And Howard Stern makes fun of everybody back in the day, in the 80s, 90s, et cetera. We're all having a laugh, right? And he made fun of Muslims all the time. You hear a Muslim name, he'd say guilty. Okay, and I laughed. It's funny, right? I thought he was joking, and I think he was joking. I think he's shown that, right? One day Howard Stern makes an Indian joke. My friend turns it off immediately. He's like, well, that just wasn't funny. Oh, so it's a little different when it hits your group, right? So I would say to Ben Shapiro, you might want to remember that the next time it's a different group, but those words will be lost on him. 100%. Every time you ring the bell below, an angel gets his wings. Totally not true, but it does keep you updated on our live shows.